Take a look at this beautiful tree. This big, gnarly veteran is something that's missing from our modern forests that have been cut down within the last 100 years. It's managed to stick around because it's right on the edge of the property, so it's probably left when the forest was cleared. And it's right on the edge of our neighbor's field, and over the years it's got absolutely pummeled by wind. The crown snapped off, and it's reshot up new growth. That new growth is broken off and it's shot up new growth again. Right now it's got 3 main branches. 2 of them look like this one. Totally dead, bark's peeling off and slowly rotting away. And then there's one more that's still shooting up new growth. This is kind of like a natural pollard. The wind is doing it. It's not a human-made pollard, but you can still see up in that last remaining branch the kind of knuckling effect from being constantly snapped off and growing new shoots from that area. This is beautiful habitat for woodpeckers who built some holes that can house the bats, owls, and this big rotting out trunk. That's going to be awesome habitat for bigger mammals. Even eventually, when this is rotted out totally hollow, it could be awesome habitat for a black bear. This is a beautiful tree. Let's see if we can set some other trees up on our property for success like this big guy. This summer we had a windstorm, and this poor maple didn't make it. Got snapped about 10 feet up, and on its way down, it actually took out its neighbor. We're going to take this opportunity to try out a couple ancient forestry techniques and maybe save these trees and give them another life. This big one, we're going to do a pollard, and the little neighbor, we're going to do a coppice. So for a pollard, all we're doing is cutting the tree off about 6 or 7 feet up, and the coppice, we're going to cut it right flush to the ground as low as we can. The idea is that if you wait to do this in the winter, all the tree's nutrients are down the roots, and in the spring, they'll get pumped back up and pushed out into new growth on these 2 wounds. These are, to be honest, a bit big specimens to be trying this out on. You'd want to be starting smaller if you were being safe, but as an effort to save these trees, it's absolutely viable. I'm expecting to see quite a bit of rot on this tree. If we let the branches that it grows get too big, probably won't be able to support them. This will be actively managed. This one, we might try a different management technique we'll talk about at the end. So here's our pollard. We're going to do our best to cut it on a nice straight cut on an angle to let the water beat off and prevent too much rot. Let's see what we can do. I'm going to start it just below where that damage starts. I'm just going to make a tiny cut on this side, just so that when I push this off, it doesn't peel a strip of bark off. Alright, that looks great. I think that's going to give this maple the best chances it can get to recover. We're below the crack, and it's a nice clean cut. Maple's not the most rot resistant wood out there. I definitely do expect this to rot, but for our purposes of making a wildlife habitat, a little rot is just fine. So about 10 meters away from that natural pollard that we had over there, we got this sort of natural coppice. This great big tree would have fallen over at some point and then sent up new shoots that turn into these big trunks behind me. They're all connected to the same old root system. In a managed coppice, the full forest almost looks like it's full of a bunch of bushes. And then every few years you have to go in, recut all the new growth off, and just right back to the knuckle, and then it grows back as a bush again. This one would have been a bush, but the tree prioritized a few leaders and sent most of its growth through them, and those turned into these kind of connected trunks here. If you look close, there's a decent amount of rot in there, so long-term stability of this tree is absolutely questionable, but if a trunk falls over, who knows, maybe we get a new resprout from the base again and it starts to cycle over. So here's that smaller trunk. We're gonna go, you can see where the tree starts to flare out. We're gonna go just above that. And same thing, we're gonna try to get a nice clean angled cut, keep the rain off it. So here's that coppice cut. New sprouts will shoot up all along the outside, and you can wait a few years, depends on if you want firewood or polewood, and come back and just keep chopping those off. And those new wounds will keep healing over, and you'll end up with like a big knuckle. That's one way to do a coppice, but there's also something called singling, which I think is a better choice for this forest. We're not really interested in maple polewood, not part of the business plan. So what I'm gonna try to do with this one, provided that it does in fact sprout up and this works, is in a few years I'll come back and I'll trim all of my leaders except for the best one. I'll leave one that's avoided being munched by deer and is growing straight and vigorous. And if this manages to heal over, that one leader will form a nice single trunk tree that'll blend in with all the other trees in the woods. So this one actually might be able to save and turn into a brand new tree. That other one, that's gonna be a pollard forever. You're always gonna notice that that's a pollard. It's not gonna look like a big single trunk tree ever again. But this one might. Let's, last thing we're gonna do is just get some brush, put it on top, and that'll protect those new shoots from the deer this summer. So can a sugar maple live to be a 300-400-year-old veteran without turning into a mutilated monster all full of critters? Yes, it can, but these big ones around me, they don't have a chance. When this area was cleared, all these maples grew up all together. They had full sun their whole lives, and they grew tall and quick, and they didn't put any energy into growing thick, dense trunks. This one here though, he's in the shadows of his mother and his aunts, and he's gonna have to grow slowly. Take him decades to have a chance at seeing the canopy. One of his neighbors might fall over, they'll get a little bit closer, but that canopy will close up again. The next one will fall over and get a little closer, and then it'll close up again. And all the while, it's gonna grow dense, it's gonna grow straight, and it's gonna have a great chance at becoming an old beauty. It's neat to be planting trees in the forest, because the ones we're planting in the field, they're gonna grow quick. We're gonna see some results from them quickly. But the ones we grow in the woods here, they could be ancient giants, and that's amazing.